Welcome to Lizzie's Workshop and the last Mixed Media Monday of 2015. Today I created a 8.5 by 11 page, and I'm not sure that there's really any direction to it. I felt this driving need to create a last mixed media project for the year, and so I just kind of grabbed a bunch of stuff that was within reach on my desk and started plopping it down. So when you get to the end of the project, and it doesn't really look a whole lot like it's joined together, like it's cohesive, it's just the muddle of stuff that was left on my desk at the end of 2015. So to start off with, I did my typical collage type of thing, but I only had this one wrapping paper sitting on my desk. And so I ripped up the wrapping paper and I glued it all on in collage fashion, not really worrying about what lines joined with other lines or if there was any rhyme or reason to it. I just kept laying it down and gluing it down with my matte gel. Actually, this is the matte medium from Golden. So there's a layer of the matte medium underneath, and there's a layer of matte medium over top, and I'm going overlapping the edges of the page. And this is also the end of a book. So the page has the coil bound holes in it, which I'm going to go right over and pretend they're not there. And I didn't really have a plan for what this piece was going to be used for. I thought maybe I could use it as a title page for next year's Lifebook 2016, but then I got to thinking maybe I should use it as a title page for my tags binder, and I just kind of tinkered with the idea of where to put it, and it ended up as the title page, or the page that goes right out front of the binder for my tags binder, which worked out perfectly. Now that I'm watching this from the video portion, I see that a lot of the line work kind of matches up and meets together and kind of creates its own design, which is kind of neat. I didn't notice that as I was building it. And so I just kind of, cover it in another nice smooth layer of the matte medium, just to make sure that everything is kind of smooth and there's no big bubbles that are going to take forever to dry and so forth. So I cut up a bunch of pages. I ripped them out of a coil bound book, took the coil right off, and then I trimmed them to 8.5 by 11 because I wanted to fill a binder with 8.5 by 11 mixed media paper so that I would have it ready for next year, because next year is going to be pretty busy. So I started off with 52 mixed media papers in there, and so I had to cut the coil portion off in order to fit them into the page protectors. And then I just sprayed these strips with the Mr. Huey's, I think it's like a hot tamale red or something like that. I've put it away already, so I can't reach it, but so this is it was a Mr. Huey's, and Mr. Huey's is water-based, so it is going to run, and I didn't give this stuff time to dry. And I did that for a reason. I wanted it to kind of take on a life of its own, and in order to blend it in with the page, I'm going to take the brayer and I'm going to roll over top so that the matte gel or matte medium goes underneath and as a glue and goes over top as a little bit of a sealant. And I'm just going to put some pressure on that to get it to glue down, and then it's going to press through and move that red around a little bit. And because it's kind of randomly moved the red around, I'm going to add some matte medium to the top of it to seal all the color in, but at the same time I did it in a really chunky fashion, and I'm going to take my brayer and I'm going to roll over that again, and that's going to move some of the red all over the page, which is what I want to make the foreground join up with the background. And then I'm going to make sure that anything that's come up when I rolled goes back down, and then I'll let it dry for a couple hours. I didn't have my heat gun. My heat gun has taken a trip somewhere and I don't know where it is, but so I have to let things air dry, and that time isn't included in my process time. But I punched all of these out of jelly prints, a yellow page and a green page, or a bluish page, and now I am going through and putting StazOn around the edges just to make them dark around the edges so they stand out a little bit more. And I did that off camera so you wouldn't have to watch me do it over and over again. Now, you know, I have no color schemes that are matching each other. I'm going to use the golden heavy gel as a glue, and I'm just going to kind of start gluing things on. I didn't have a huge amount of planning involved in this. Like I said, I'm just kind of grabbing things from around my table and my workbench, and kind of the clearing of the bench before the new year comes kind of idea. And so this isn't really my best work. It's just kind of a to close off the year. I felt like I needed to do that last project, and it doesn't have to be a spectacular project. It just has to be something that signifies a bit of closure. So I'm taking those and I'm putting them into a grid pattern, and I kind of thought that they should dangle down from the top of the page down through, as if I was putting ink at the top of the page and letting it drip down the center of the page, which was also one of my ideas. But I did have these jelly printed pages right on my work area, and I thought, you know what, we'll just use those. Who cares if the colors go together? Nobody needs the colors to match. And so I just went with it. I'm going to have to add some elements in here that help things to match as the time goes by. And so what I'm doing is I'm looking, as I'm adding these to the page, I'm looking at what colors are in the jelly prints, because oftentimes you can find little bits and pieces of things that you didn't expect in there. Like in those yellow ones, I'm finding a bit of black, which means, okay, yeah, it sort of ties into the background because the black brings it a bit together. But in the blue ones, there's like purple bubble wrap kind of prints to it. So it's blue and purple. There's nothing that brings it really together yet. So I'm going to have to figure something else out there. And so I'm just kind of adding it in. And my thought process is always that I'm going to do odd numbers of things, because that appeals more to the eye than even numbers. And I didn't want things to be symmetrical. I wanted them to be asymmetrical. I wanted things to be random-ish. And so, you know, I started out with my 5 hexagons in the yellow and my 3 hexagons in the yellow, and then I was going to add another something somewhere, and I realized I can only make even numbers of things. So I'm like, I compromised. I'm like, okay, so I've got this down so that I've got 3 different dangling parts of yellow. That's enough odd, isn't it? I don't have to have the dangly bits be odd. It'll be fine. So that's what I did. I wanted to use them all up. I didn't want them sitting on my workbench, and so I just used them up. And then I got to the end here with the blue, and I didn't really like how that was going, so I thought, okay, well, we're going to do odd numbers with those. Yeah, not so much. An even number of blue strips coming down, and once again, I'm looking at even numbers, and I didn't have enough whole hexagons, so I had to piece the edge of the page ones together in order to make holes. And once again, I'm looking at even numbers, which, whatever. So once I get them all assembled, I realized that the last 2 that I had to paper piece, they didn't have any black around the edges. So this last one I put on, I did end up putting the black around the edges. And then as I'm gluing it on, I'm realizing that I'm doing it wrong. And so I had to kind of play with it a little bit to get it lined up so that the black went all the way around the hexagon. Play with that a little bit. And then that's that. I flipped it over, I pushed it down, and I let it sit for a few minutes. And then I came back and thought, you know what, I'm going to add some Liquitex flexible molding paste to this. And this is the last of the molding paste that I have. I had it in a big tub, and so I just moved it to a smaller jar. And that is the bubble stencil from Tim Holtz. I've seen that a lot. A lot of people love this stencil. And I like it for its randomness. So I just kind of threw that on there and went about my way. And the thing that I like about this is that it breaks up that design that's on the wrapping paper at the bottom, and it also allows me to bring the red together because I've gone over top of the red, and I thought, oh, well, we're going to go over top of some of the hexagons too, and that'll bring the whole page together. I got this is good. And then I took the golden matte gel, and I had these black stamped butterflies on fabric that I had cut out, and they were just sitting there innocently, so why not make a mess of them? But then I thought, I've got nothing to tie anything together, so I'm going to grab this string. The string has blue in it. We're good. But it also has green and white. So the blue and the white were good, but now I've got to add green in somewhere. So I just kind of make a messy pile of the twine, the baker's twine, and then I put big globs of the heavy gel onto the butterfly, and I put it on there, and it all just blends together so you can't even see the butterfly. So it goes so well, it's so cohesive with the page that you can barely find the butterfly. See? See, I know what I'm doing, or not, maybe. So then I grab another string, and this one's a bigger string, and so because it's a bigger string, I'm going to use a smaller butterfly to glue it down. Totally makes sense. Don't ask me how. And so I glue that butterfly on there with the heavy gel. And the nice thing about this heavy gel is that it will stick solidly, and it, you know, because it is a fluid medium or a wet medium, I can just stick that butterfly down there and it'll all come through the way that I want it to. But once again, those beautiful little butterflies just blend right into the background with the red and the black and all that stuff in the background. So I'm going to have to do something to fix that. So I get my strings on there and I get my teeny tiny little butterflies on there, and no matter what the size of my butterfly is, I just have to use big gobs of that matte gel, and it, you know, goes on there nice and solid, and it'll dry nice and solid as well. I didn't have a lot of drawing time for this page, and because I didn't want to wreck my Faber-Castell Pitt pens, I think I ended up using a Sharpie when it came down to using a marker on this page and doing the, I did some Zentangling towards the end. I used a fine point Sharpie, an ultra fine point Sharpie, just because I don't care if I destroy it with the moisture that's still on the project. So then I needed to bring out those butterflies because they melted into the page. So I went for the green color, and the closest green that I had to the green on the string was the light olive that comes for the Neocolor 2s, and because it's a fabric butterfly, it just sucks up that moisture, and because the medium underneath is still wet, it all just becomes this cohesive layer. It doesn't separate, it stays nice and solid and solidifies all together as the gel dries and as the butterfly dries from the watercolor. So if I had put any gel on top of the butterfly, there's no way that I could have colored it like this, because the heavy gel would have acted like a resist, whereas because I only use it as a glue underneath the butterfly and I am adding the color while it's wet, it's not going to resist, it's going to absorb the watercolor and it's going to stay that color. So I use the light green olive, and that makes the butterfly come out of the page a little bit. If I really wanted it to pop off the page, I would have used a red, but what I really wanted to do was bring out the green from the string, which everything kind of still melts together. So traditionally, I would normally pull the red up and color the butterflies red so that I could make the base layer and the top layer cohesive. But today wasn't one of those days where I was thinking about what I was creating. It wasn't one of those days where I was, you know, particularly cognizant or paying attention to what I was doing. It was just a must create mixed media art last time of the month, you know, kind of thing. So because I had this driving determination to just make something, and I haven't done a whole lot of mixed media recently because I've been focusing on Zentangling, it was really just this driving need to get something on a page, and so this is my something on a page. Many layers of something, apparently, in order to satisfy that urge. And then I took the dark olive color and I went around the edge just to give the butterflies the little bit of differentiation. They definitely do not stand out as the top layer of this page. I did not go in when it was dry and use black to make it all kind of pop. I just left it as a simple pile of stuff that was on my desk. And I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly happy with how this page came out. So if you want to recreate this, this is how you do it. So once I have the butterfly on, I'm like, oh, you know, there's that purple in the blue hexagons. I need to tie in the purple somehow. So instead of having all these white dots in the paste, once the paste layer, the top layer of the paste was dry, I went and just took the watercolor crayon. This is a lilac or a violet or something, and I just took the paint right off of the crayon with the water barrel brush and just moved that water around, moved the color around until there's just little skiffs of purple here and there. And that really helped to get rid of some of the white, and it really helped to bring the page together, I think. And I really like how it turned out once I added the purple in there. So while I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about this, and I was still pondering that this might be my title page for Lifebook 2016. And so I was pondering it and thought, you know what, if this is going to be my title page, then I'm going to call it The Gifts in Me. Just because there's sometimes you don't know how capable you are. You don't know what your skills are until somebody says, hey, you have this skill, let me show you how to pull it out of yourself. And that's what Lifebook had really done for me in the past year, because I took Lifebook 2015. And it, I knew that I was creative. I knew that I could do certain things. And so doing the Lifebook 2015 allowed me the opportunity to try other people's artistic styles, and it also allowed me to expand my skills, because it brought to life that I just had to teach my hand to do certain things, and then I could create anything that I wanted. And you know, to be honest, I didn't even take all of Lifebook. I have it, of course, downloaded, but I didn't do all of Lifebook 2015 yet, just because life got in the way of things. And that's okay. I have it, and I can do it at any time. And I probably will in 2016. But I wanted this to be The Gifts in Me, because Lifebook brings that out. It tells you, you do have this gift, let me show you. And all the amazing artists that teach the lessons in that course, they're just so giving. They're just, you know, this smooth, continuous, you know, weekly giving of creativity and inspiration. So I wanted this page to be called The Gifts in Me. And then I went around the edge with my, the wording there. I just printed that off of, I have a scrapbook labeler. It's a pink one. And I just printed off the labels from that. And then I took my StazOn and I went around the edge here, and I thought, you know what, I need things to be scuffed up just a little bit more. So I scuffed up that purple, but it's still wet, so I'm ruining my ink pad here. And then I stamped it on there just to make things more scuffy, if that's a word. And then I took my Sharpie, and this wasn't working because things were wet. So I fought with it, made my Sharpie, you know, break. I will have black pen on my page whether it's dry or not. So I just kind of scribbled around all over top of it. I felt like I was in a crush to get this done. I don't have a lot of time. I feel like the end of 2015 signifies the end of my creativity, simply because there's going to be a lot of life changes in 2016. And so I kind of felt like this was I was bound and determined to get one more creative project out there. And now this isn't true at all. That's just how I was feeling. There will definitely be more creativity in the future. I don't think that I will ever stop being creative, but it was definitely, I felt the crush that I had to get something onto paper. And so then I Zentangled along the yellow hexagons, and then I was finished the page. So thank you very much for watching this Mixed Media Monday. Thank you very much for supporting me over the past year or more. And I look forward to seeing you again or hearing from you again in 2016. And I also hope that you enjoy everything that I'm putting out and sharing with you in 2016. Have a happy new year, and I'll see you next year.